living city now.
Hell yeah.
It's gonna be cold, man.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but fun.
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a little bit uncomfortable.
Okay, Ryan, can you introduce yourself and talk about the trip for us, please?
Alright, cool. So, my name's Ryan Kurtanis. I live in Mongolia. I've lived in Mongolia for 9 years. I run a travel agency called Seek Adventure Travels. Tolga and I have been friends for 8 years, and Sakna and I have been friends for, probably about the same, 8 years, maybe even 9 years since I got here. And we decided to do this little guys sort of trip. This is sort of the video of our adventure into the wilderness in what turned out to be the coldest week of the entire winter, which we may have known going into it, but we still decided to go on the trip anyway.
Yeah, so the total days we spent was 4, right?
Yeah, we spent 4 days, and I don't know originally what the plan was actually. I got different answers from Sakna because originally I had asked Sakna to go to this lake. And I didn't know exactly how many days it was to get there. And he kind of told me there were 2 different ways. One was like 3 days, one maybe was 5 days, and so I figured, okay, it'll be about 4 days. And when we got there, he was like, from here it's going to be more like 6 days, which we almost immediately were like, oh man, 6 days, that's a long time. But
the thing is, farther we go, harder it gets.
Exactly. So we decided to go the first day and see how everything went. Just for reference on who is who, I'm talking right now. I am the white guy in the video with the beard. Tolga is filming mostly, but wearing blue jacket and red Dell. And then Sakna is wearing red Dell and wolf fur jacket to stay warm. And so that was a big part of this trip, was staying warm because it was really cold.
Well, it was tough actually. In my opinion, it's cold, and then I didn't ride a horse since last year, and I just got on the horse, and then the first day was so tough, and also in the nighttime it's cold, and I think that's one of the beautiful thing about a trip.
Well, that's the thing I would ask you, like, what did you expect the trip to be like?
Well, easier than I had. Easier than I experienced.
I think that is like sort of what we all expected going into it. Like, we knew it was going to be cold. Obviously, it's winter. We knew it was going to be a long horseback ride. So our initial expectation in the beginning of the video is like, we're going to be cold. We're going to be tired, but it's going to be okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What actually happened was a little bit more extreme than that.
Yes.
Right?
And then also, we had a good lesson. For example, the sticks to use for the tent, and then the stuff we prepare for a trip.
Right.
And then, the first day I felt like I didn't bring any water with me. I don't know why we didn't do that. We just forgot doing that.
Well, I think, so let's just start with a lot of things happened over the course of the 4 days, but the initial thing, we get to camp, we left the city early in the morning, and we got to camp, and, we get to the place where the horses are, which Sakna's family owns. They're his horses. And we're starting to catch, they're starting to catch the horses and saddle the horses, and it was cold in the morning, but we knew it was morning, it was cold, it was early, and none of us are wearing Dell or jacket or anything yet because we're getting ready. And we packed pretty light. Sakna was happy with how much stuff we brought. We brought sleeping bags, sleeping mattress, pad on the ground.
Yeah.
We brought 1 cooler of pre-made soup that I made, all the things cut up. but not cooked.
Yeah.
We brought my like company expedition tent, which is big teepee style tent with a stove in it.
Yep, that's one of the things we learned, right? Maybe it's
Yeah.
too big for that cold weather.
Right, and that's the thing.
Serna's father was telling that the lower
Yeah,
is
after.
better. Yeah.
And that's the thing. So like I got that tent for our company as like a dining tent, place to cook and for my guests to eat. But the good thing about the tent is it has a stove. So we were like, yeah, this is warmer than normal tent because it has stove.
Yeah. Way better. Yeah.
But you're right. It is a very big tent. I mean, we only set it up half size. Like you guys never even got to see it set up full size.
Oh, okay.
And it, even at half size, it's very big tent. I mean, we've slept in there comfortably. We could have had one more person in there with the stove, and you know, we learned our lesson with that. But yeah, so that's basically what we packed. Did we bring anything else? I guess all the Dells and clothing are a big part of what we brought too. Like we each had Dell jacket, fur hat, gloves.
Yeah.
And, you know, we knew it was going to be cold riding horse during the day, but we also knew that clothes would keep us warm at night.
Yeah.
So besides the tent, the mattresses, and our clothes, we didn't really bring anything else.
That's
An
right.
axe. We brought an axe and a pot. Obviously, we needed a pot to cook soup.
Yeah,
Right?
the axe is one of the very important stuff because in order to get the water, I mean, we have to
Right.
break the ice and that kind of stuff.
Right.
Well, I mean, so that's all about the trip, right? So then, here's the thing I wanted to ask from you. I mean, you're my friend, but this is a new trip for us, especially for me, because in the winter time I have never done this before. But in the summertime and in the warm time, it's okay, you know. And then also the riding a horse and the making this kind of trip is very. I'm not good at it. What I mean is, so I mean, you guys are good at it. You know, you have done this for 10 years in Mongolia, including America. I don't know how long it is, but I want to ask some question from you, for example, or I want you to tell like advices. You know, like maybe like for safety, what should we carry for the trip, and like all equipments and that kind of stuff, because you think about it much better than most of the people in Mongolia, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we brought the bare minimum of what we needed for safety with the tent, you know, the tent, sleeping bag, the stove. I had a medical kit in my saddlebag, which people forget to bring a lot, but you know, you need medical kit. You're riding a horse. You never know. Like you might fall off. I think the thing to think about in winter is like, I wish I had more pairs of gloves, those little gloves, because at the same time, gloves are really good to keep your hands warm, but it's hard to do a lot of horse stuff with gloves on because you can't tie knot. You can't pack thing, you know, it's hard to hold all this rope with gloves on.
At the same time, you want it to keep you warm. Keep your hand warm, you know.
Yeah, so I made these, like, you know, you'll see them in the video, but these big sheep fur, like notruk it's called.
Yeah, notruk, yeah.
These turned out great. They were so easy to make too. Which, you know, I made those special for this trip, but yeah, I wish I had brought more gloves.
Well, the local people really liked it, so I think that's one of the really important thing you should suggest to people.
On these trips, when we're like just friends, all, you know, it's fun to like experiment, bring stuff. Like I brought a lot of stuff that I had made for this trip, like the bear fur pants.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Which were warm, but not like, as you know, they're not really warm because the fur's on the outside. But yeah, so like to go back to your question, I think the main thing to think about in winter trip is just safety. You know you're going to get cold. You need that backup plan to start fire, and realize that everything takes longer. I mean, that's one thing we talked about with Sachna's dad after trip, right?
Yeah, that's right.
You can't do a long day. Like, I think for both of us, I mean, I ride a lot more than you, but it's still been a couple months.
Yep.
The days were really long. The 2 days we rode the full day. I mean, we really rode full day. Didn't stop for lunch. And when you're out in the cold riding all day, you feel it at the end of the
That's
day.
right, yeah.
You feel like cold, you feel sore.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. In winter, just always give yourself more time.
Everything else is pretty much okay. But my toes.
Okay. Toes are so cold.
Because it's like the world is slowed down, you're slowed down, horses, everything's slower. And then same thing with pack horse too. You can't even ride as fast because like the first day, I think you only got video of packing a couple times, but how many times did we repack the horse first day? Maybe 4 times?
Yeah, more than that, I guess.
I think maybe,
Yeah.
maybe more. So we
Can't
stopped.
Can't remember because it was too cold.
Yeah,
The brain
exactly.
is frozen.
And it's,
Right?
you know,
Yeah.
you stop, unpack everything,
Yeah.
get the saddle fixed, put everything back on, retie
right.
knots, you know, and then you get cold
It's
doing
hard.
that. So,
It's fun, but it's hard. But it's good
Yeah.
that Sahna was with us because Sahna really
yeah,
knows how to do that.
Yeah,
And you
it's
know,
it's
and-
all his stuff too.
Yeah.
So it's like you got to do it the way that, you know, whoever's horses it is, you have to do it that way.
Yeah.
You know, that's the most
I
important
felt
thing.
really good. It's because I got you guys. You know, you guys know
Yeah.
better. So okay, so let's stop here. About I want to ask another question, please. Like way different than the question I asked from
Yeah.
you. So this is the question I always like to ask from the riders, horse riders. You know? So what would you say is the most important part of the building trust and strong connection between the horse and its rider?
Well, I don't know if I'm qualified to answer this question on this trip because my horse learned that I wasn't gonna be mean to him, so he kicked me twice.
Well, I know that, but in general, you know, like
But
when you talk about all the
in general,
horses, yeah.
I would say, you know, just be calm around your horse, be calm on your horse. You know, the more, if you're afraid, the horse is going to feel that you're afraid, and if vice versa, if the horse is afraid and you start to act afraid, the horse is going to feel
Yes,
it like growing and growing, right? So just be calm.
that's what I heard. But you think it's really true?
I think
they really
it's,
feel.
yeah, I think it's really, I know it's true. I mean, I've seen it many times. People just, you know, don't think. You get I mean, a horse is a big animal, so people start to act nervous and it's not worth it. And then at the same time, like, you know, Sahna said, that horse kicks. He knows that it kicks. Another thing is, like, for me, you know, other circumstances, I'll deal with that myself, but I don't feel bad about having Sahna help me
Yeah.
get on horse.
That's
like,
right.
it's his horse.
Yeah.
He knows it kicks. Like, I don't want to get kicked.
Yeah, that's right.
Like, I don't need to be Mr. Tough Guy
Yeah,
and say, like, I'm going to train this horse. No, I
No.
mean, it was cold.
that trip was not for that.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
I learned that long time ago.
Nice,
Like,
thank you. Well, I mean,
guiding people, like, you need to know what what is your purpose? Are you there to train one horse that you'll never see again, not to kick? No.
No.
You're there to go on trip.
Yeah.
So just like
That's
do
right.
what you have to do to go on trip safely. You know, that's the right way to do things. The right way to do things is to do it the safest way to get the mission accomplished.
Exactly.
Not
Well, you didn't tell that on the trip, but now you tell it. But I thought the same thing in my
Yeah.
mind too.
Yeah, like, I don't-
like our goal is not to train a horse, right?
exactly. And it's just, you know, especially in Mongolia, it's just maybe a thing that horse like isn't gonna learn, you know,
That's right.
and that's okay.
We never know.
It wasn't being really bad, just yeah.
Yeah. Well, here we were talking about trip, and especially we were talking about the horse stuff. That and I want to keep asking a question from you. I mean, even though we were dudes, right? Because it's a chance for me. Next question.
Yeah.
You're okay with that?
Yeah, I'm great with it.
You're like, what are you trying to do? You know, like you keep
No, I
asking
think it's
questions
good.
from me. Okay, so next question is, what makes horseback riding so unique and beautiful compared to other activities?
Well, I think for me, there's a lot of aspects of it. The one part of it from like running a business and being more of a horse person is that there's always something to learn, and it's just a very unique skill set that you can always get better at and always learn more about. From like a tourist perspective, which we were kind of in between on this trip, we were kind of tourists, we were kind of not, is like you have to be very focused on your horse, but then at the same time you can just like relax and look around and take in the scenery. You know, a little bit like driving, although driving maybe not as safe to do that because like the car can't drive itself. But once you get comfortable on the horse, like you can look around, you know, the horse, like, yeah, you always have to be aware, but you can kind of take things in and enjoy. And, you know, some of the places we went were just like so beautiful, and yeah, it was really cold, but it was just, it was beautiful, and that was nice to be on horseback. And I always just feel like you're so much closer. If you're walking, hiking, on horse, or on motorcycle, you feel where you are. You're not, okay, it's cold, turn the heat up in the car. No, you can't do that. So like you're riding the horse and it's this beautiful landscape, but you're also feeling you're feeling when the wind blows, you're feeling when the ground is hard and slippery, you know, you're feeling all of that because you're on horse, which I just think is really beautiful way to travel.
That's right, yeah. Well, I'm a fly fishing guide, you know. So.
Yeah, it's kind of same like in the boat, right?
Yeah, but yeah, that's right.
You can't turn heater on in the boat.
That's right, yeah.
You can't okay, I'm gonna close the window on the boat because it's raining. I mean, you're on the river, you feel the river, right?
You stay with the nature.
Yeah, you
whatever.
Exactly. And I would say the thing that's nice about the horse is it's another living creature. So, yeah, you also have to worry about them and take care of them.
That's right.
You know, like we experienced
Sounds
that.
like taking care of each other. Like horse and you.
Yeah, you have to take care of the horse to get you home.
Yeah. And you feel wild, right? You feel alive. I mean, maybe because horse is alive and you're alive and you're.
Yeah, I would say so.
Together.
And during Mongol period, only basically they say from historical records, like Genghis Khan and his family were allowed to have like symbol of dragon response.
Okay, next question.
Nice.
So you're from America.
Yep.
And you lived in Mongolia long enough to know the thing. So can you tell the difference between a Mongolian horse and an American horse? Like, you don't have to be like great to answer for this question, but just your opinion, you know, like.
I would say there's kind of two sides to this. The first side is I think a lot of Mongolian horses are much more predictable than American horses because Mongolian horses, for the most part, live a very similar lifestyle to like a truly wild horse. That doesn't mean that Mongolian horses are wild. I'm saying that they live a lifestyle, right? They live on the open steppe. They don't live in a fence. So the things that they react to are very easy to predict. They don't like things that they think are going to hurt them. They don't like things that they think are going to chase them, right?
Yes.
They're like thinking about wolves and other predators, right?
Yes.
American horses sometimes, you know, they stay in a barn or they're kept away from other horses. So sometimes the things that they react to are not predictable. You just don't know what that horse has been through. With Mongolian horse, I feel like it's easier to know, okay, this is how this horse has lived its life. I kind of know how it's going to react. Now, that being said, like the thing with the kicking thing, in the United States, if you had a horse that kicked, you'd train them to not kick or you'd get rid of that horse. You know, it's just a dangerous thing, mostly because an American horse, for the most part, it's a lot bigger than a Mongolian horse. I mean, the horse that kicked me, he kind of kicked, it was a small kick, and he like kicked me in the bottom of the leg. American horse like is bigger, so it could really
close
hurt
to your head,
you.
maybe.
Exactly.
Or
So in that regard, I think some of the training of American horses is better because it's just the standard, like, America, that like people sue each other all the time, all this stuff, right? If you're gonna go on trip, you need to have good trained horses. And that being said, like these horses were great, like they didn't do anything bad per se, but it's just kind of a difference in opinion. And part of it is like if you have a horse that lives out on the steppe and has to protect itself from wolves, do you want to train it to never kick? No, I mean it needs to kick. It needs to kick away wolves.
That's right. Away from dog or anything.
So that I would say is one of the main different. I mean, you could horse people. Every horse person is an expert. Every horse person thinks they're smarter than every other horse person. So I would just say, basically horses around the world, horses are horses at the end of the day. They're not that much different from each other. But in some ways they are different in Mongolia and America.
Yeah.
So
This is not a good question, but you prefer American horse or Mongolian horse?
It depends, really.
Depends on what you are doing.
Sometimes I would say like for leading trips for guests, I sometimes prefer American horses just because I think the level of training is a little higher. I feel like it might be a little bit safer for guests. But to ride personally, I'm always like sometimes when I'm working in the U.S. disappointed with my horse being like kind of lazy.
Okay.
And like I feel like Mongolian horses they have a lot of heart. They just try very hard.
Yeah, maybe in that case you prefer the Mongolian horses because you like more wild.
It's not the wild part that
you always have to train.
Like about it. No,
even though they're a good horse.
It's more like I like that they're not. In the U.S. we might call it like dumb broke or like they're just like so calm that they're lazy.
Okay.
And I don't like that sometimes. Like I don't want to be like asking my horse all the time to go.
Yeah,
I want my horse to just be forward and go. So I don't know. It's hard to say. I mean, it's so hard to compare. The other thing I would say is that's probably more important is that the difference. There's more differences between two horses in Mongolia or two horses in the U.S. than between Mongolian horses and American horses. Like obviously the thing that matters is like who owns the horses, what are they used for, where how do they live their life. Like to compare Mongolian horses to any other country's horses, it's like one Mongolian horse is not the same as another. So how do you compare?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, let's stop this. Maybe it's because it's a stupid question.
No, I think it's a question. I mean, horse people ask questions like this all the time.
I know I'm jumping between the totally different questions, but the next question is, on this trip I felt like my clothes were not the right choice. So what would you say that the best clothes for riding a horse?
I do think in wintertime, like wearing a del, which is traditional Mongolian robe, you can't really find something that covers you as much when you're riding a horse as a del.
Because it's cold.
Yeah, because it's designed in Mongolia to be used riding horse. So I really do think del is the best thing. I think the boots that you had, that I gave you, Mongolian boots, I was looking at yours that you used compared to Sakna's, and I could just tell the ones Sakna had are much better made. The sole is thicker, and even though they're older, the bottom part where it meets the ground.
Yeah.
And I think that was a big part of it. I think those boots are just, I didn't know when I bought them, and I don't think they're that good of quality. I think, the other thing too is just layers. Like the more layers you have, the more you're going to be blocked from the wind. And I think fur, like Sakna had that fur coat. We all had fur hats.
Yeah.
I had the fur on my hands and then the bare fur pants. Fur is warm. I mean, think about it. All those animals, they're designed to just run around in the cold.
Yeah, that's right.
It also keeps like the snow off your face.
I feel much warmer when I get on the horse. So I think
that's fear.
Yeah. Yeah, I think
Keeping
it's a
you
good
warm.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so just like how the trip went, you know, we rode the first day basically all day. We got to a spot where it was a good spot to camp, but I don't know if we meant to go there. Just it was a good spot to camp, and it was getting dark. We got off the horses, and I mean, as soon as the sun went down, it started to get cold. Wouldn't you say?
Oh,
Like-
totally big difference.
I mean, it was pretty quick, and I wasn't like panicked, but when we got off, I was like, I knew Sakna was going to take care of the horses, you know, and I knew we had to get the tent set up and like start making fire. So we kind of split up. I set up the tent. It's a Seek Outside 16-person teepee tent. I set it up in the half formation. So it's an 8-person tent, they call it technically. I think you could fit 8 people in there, but we had 3, and you know, it's a big tent. And then it has a stove, which is really cool little stove. I mean, you'll see in the video there's a part that shows it, but it's like the stove bag is only as big as a laptop case. It's pretty cool. So we set up the stove, we set up the tent, but man, the ground was hard.
Oh
We
yeah.
had to like hammer the stakes in. We got the tent set up, you know, we got stove going, we got fire going, we started to cook soup, which, you know, then Sakna spilled a lot of the soup, which was pretty funny.
Oh my god. Oh no, that's like too much dirt, man. Are you a dog? Dude,
I mean-
hey, no.
Dude, I want to eat. I'm fucking hungry. But yeah, I mean, even just getting water, right? We had to like cut ice out of the little like crick,
Yeah.
you know, chunks of ice. And that's the thing. You were saying you wanted to bring more water, but I don't think it was worth it because it would have all been frozen.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, and this isn't in the video, but the morning when we woke up, I mean, we're like putting ice in the pot. Then you wanted to drink a Coca-Cola that you had, but it was frozen. So you cut that open and put it in the teapot.
Well, it
And
worked out.
It
But
did
no
work,
gas
but
anyway.
I think we would have like been spending a lot of time melting water or like cutting it out of plastic bottles. So it's easier to just chip it out of the river. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. Well, you tell me. How did you sleep that night in the tent?
It was cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, cold, especially the
Like
feet.
feet were
Yeah,
really
feet,
cold.
yeah.
I think we both said we woke up and our feet, like I know I woke up and my toes really hurt. I mean, truly hurt. And I had to sit
Really?
there and like move my toes not in my sleep, I was awake, like move my toes until I could feel them again. You know?
To feel them again. Yeah.
And I took my fur hat and I tied it, you know, all the way around my head. So I was sleeping with all my clothes on. I was sleeping with gloves on, and I had my kind of that orange jacket over my head. And I would say none of us slept very well, because the next day, well, you can tell, but we didn't really ride for very long the next day.
Yeah, but it was fun.
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
But we rode.
Still cold though.
We spent the morning basically just sitting in the tent, being warm, like, you know, being warm, keeping the fire going, drinking tea, and I think we actually left camp at like 3 in the afternoon
That's right. Yeah.
because it was just easier to sleep in the day when it was warm. I mean, it was just so cold. I think, as it turns out, we know now it's basically the coldest night of the entire year
Yeah.
of all winter. So it was like negative 35
I
in the
think-
city.
I think that's what one of the locals were
Yeah.
telling us, right?
Right.
That night was
And
maybe
that's-
the coldest night.
And that's what led us to stay at, you know, a friend of mine, really, and a friend of Sakna's, Sumbe. He's an older guy who I've guided with in Mongolia many times. We ended up riding kind of over the mountain, which was beautiful. And their kind of Oval Joe winter place is on the other side of the mountain. So we we stayed with them for the next 2 nights, and basically everybody was like, "You stayed in a tent last night? Like, what?
Yeah.
Why? That's crazy."
Yeah.
And
so why did you choose that day?
Exactly.
Coldest
And-
night.
And that was the thing. We just some family stuff, and we don't need to get into it, but we were actually going to go on this trip a week earlier, and it didn't work out, and we just said, hey, whatever, we'll go on the trip this week. And you know, I say it in the video in the beginning and in the end, but you know, I think I underestimated how cold it was going to be, and I was really thankful that their, you know, family and the Gares were on the other side of that mountain.
That's right, yeah.
Because I think if we would have been okay, we would have survived if we had camped out the next 2 nights, but we would have been really cold.
Really cold, yeah.
And
very, very tough, yeah.
It was just really nice to go and stay in a Gare and kind of warm up. And I think, you know, we all agreed, like, hey, you know, what is, again, it's like the same thing with the horses, right? What is the purpose of this trip?
That's right, yeah.
Like, yeah, we wanted to suffer a little bit, but we also wanted to have fun. And I think if we had stayed in the tent 4 nights, it would have been a lot of suffer, little fun.
Not good balance.
Yeah, not a good balance. And I think staying in the Gare, we had a lot of fun, and we suffered a little bit. And we still can say we slept in tent the coldest night of the year.
Yeah, so that's success.
Yeah, total
We
success.
experienced,
Yeah,
had some lesson. We felt it.
yeah, we felt.
Action
we felt
speaks louder
it.
than the words.
Yep.
People can say that, yeah, I can stay in the cold, but we stayed.
Exactly, we did.
Yeah.
And yeah, it made me realize just for our, you know, the future, like, you know, that's not exactly the right tent to use for that kind of trip, even though it has stove. It was too tall, and the stakes, like, there's, you know, again, it's on the video, but I couldn't get the stakes out of the ground. I mean, it took me almost an hour to get the stakes out of the ground, and
Some of them were broken,
they
right?
were I mean, they're big metal nails, and they just broke in half because they're so frozen in the ground. So that was another really lucky thing that we were close to them, because we could have set up the tent again, but it would have been a lot harder.
Yeah.
And so it was just nice to be able to.
Maybe we would need the big logs or rocks.
Yeah,
or
we would have had
to
to
use instead of
improvise,
the-
and then the tent probably would have been colder because it wasn't like secured to the ground as much. So yeah, that was definitely difficult, but it was, again, really fun trip. You know, extreme kind of adventure. I think we all felt very tired and worn out, and we talked about this, not on video, but in the car. Like, trips like this make you really appreciate the life that you have.
That's right. And then another thing is one of the reason why we are making this video is maybe it can give a good message to someone who, you know, can listen to it and just, hey,
Yeah.
this is what happens when you go. So maybe these are the things we should
Yeah,
prepare
things to
before
think
we go.
about.
And because so many people are doing the horseback riding a trip in the winter time, but some people don't share, they just experience. And then when you talk about it, people are just like, you know.
Yeah, don't understand some of
Yeah.
the dangers. I think it's also a thing that just maybe inspires some people, like, yeah, it's good to challenge yourself. And sometimes it's good to challenge yourself. And I think in this case for me, realize, like, yeah, you might have, like, went over the limit a little bit. I mean, I really thought going into the trip we would be able to stay in the tent. Even though it was cold, I thought we'd be able to stay in the tent all 4 nights, and yeah, we'd be a little cold, but we'd be fine. And I think that first night made me realize, okay, like, slow down a little bit. You're like not
Yeah.
like, we're not as tough as we thought we were, which I said. And again, you know, at the end of the day, I know that we could have done it, but it just wouldn't have been that fun.
Yeah.
And that's an okay lesson to learn. You know, not everything has to go perfectly how you planned all the time.
Now I'm pretty sure that we're gonna do a lot better next time when we go again.
Yeah, for sure, because we're
Yeah.
going to drive.
Yeah. No, driving is no.
No,
Well,
I think-
driving is still fun, but for us, I mean, we like to ride, you know. I don't know
Yeah,
why.
no, I
It's
think
nice feeling.
definitely if we do it again, it'll be a different kind of trip. probably go a little bit slower. You know, and really our final destination, the lake, I mean, that was something that I kind of just said to Sakna because I knew it was in that area. It wasn't about going to the lake for me. It was just about going on the trip. So I think you could easily ride to, you know, that general area that we stayed and then ride around there.
Yeah,
And stay in a Gare every night or whatever, you know. Because on the way back, we were able to make it all the way back in one day.
That's right, yeah.
Again,
Well,
it was
maybe-
another long day.
Yeah, that's especially for me because, you know,
Yeah.
new rider. But I had fun.
Yeah.
But the third time I was much better than the first day. It's because I started to get used to riding it, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, I felt sore at the end of the last day, mostly because my horse is like trotting a lot, trying to catch up.
Yeah.
But it was, I mean, you know you're going to get sore.
Yeah.
And I think all of us were sore. We all said we wanted to just go home, take a shower, and take a bath. And that's the other thing. It makes you realize how much you appreciate stuff like that, like hot running water. And also, you know, that if you don't do it every day, you don't live that life every day, you need to give yourself some time to like get your body used to it. Otherwise, it's really shocking. It wears you down quick.
That's right, yeah.
Just being that cold and riding all day, it really wears down your body quicker than in the summer.
Yep.
So,
That's it.
cool, dude.
I told Tonga, I was like, man, I'm not as tough as I thought I was.
It was cold.
I'm 30 now. People say that, you know, do people say that in Mongolia? Like, people say that all the time when you're like in your mid-20s, they're like, oh, just wait until you turn 30. Just wait.
No, not really. Like, most of the people say 30 and 40, that's the best year.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't waste your time.